so excited to be with you today. We have with us our contributing writers, as featured in Own It magazine. Taking center stage with me is best-selling author Teresa Palmer, best-selling author Stephanie. We are all best-selling authors. Thank God for that. Pastor Derain is in the house. Tiffany Para, the coach, Dr. Reed, and Pastor Lulu Brown. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. We are in the Author's Corner talking about all things publications. I'm going to put my team on the spot. And we're talking about publishing, and we're talking about speaking from the heart for those individuals who are, on the fence about publishing, feeling kind of, you just published and you're feeling a little nervous about that. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, we want to talk to you about authorship. We want to talk about publishing and visibility. And so, Teresa, what's our topic for this month? Share with the audience.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Teresa Palmer. I'm a nurse practitioner or advanced nurse, as it's often called also. And my expertise is holistic cardiology. So the book I wrote is called Heal Your Heart from Within. And I originally wrote it in 2020 because I had worked through the pandemic, I should say the year of uncertainty. I hate that word pandemic. But I worked through that whole 2020. I knew that what my patients needed, and that was to get out of fear and into control and empowerment. So I started writing a book. I originally published it very quickly under another title that talked about a pandemic. I quickly changed that. So in 2022, I revamped the book and republished it as Heal Your Heart from Within. And it's all about self-awareness, self-care, and also being empowered, because that's so important. 1 in 5 people in the United States have heart disease, and it's the leading cause of death. And that hasn't changed for many years. So to me, the missing piece is self-awareness and then self-care, because you can't care for yourself if you're not aware of yourself and why you need to care for yourself. So I would say for any author, pick a subject that you're comfortable with and that you are an expert in. And by that, I don't mean you have to have all the credentials. I have a master's degree in nursing, so my credentials, I stand on those credentials. But people also have credentials of experience or something that they went through, that they were able to either heal from, change from, and then that way they could write about that. What I would tell authors is you don't write about yourself, you write about an experience. So if you're doing a memoir, it's a teaching memoir. This is what I went through. This is how I helped other people. These were the steps that I took. Nonfiction is pretty obvious, but just pick something that you know enough about, that your credentials, whether they be academic, experience, a combination, that all those things come together because people look to you to be the expert. And in order to write something, you really do have to be an expert on what you're writing about. So that's what I would tell people. And go out there and do it. There's no harm in doing it.
Yeah, there's no harm in doing it. Finding your book idea, leveraging expertise for content creation is what we're focusing on today. It's so important for you to, one, when you approach it from a mindset, allow yourself the freedom of creativity, allow yourself the freedom of flow. Sometimes I believe that when people enter into something, they do a little bit of self-sabotaging. Which also ends up in procrastinating or not doing it at all. And so what I want to say to you is just free your mind, like free yourself up, just come up with some ideas. It just really depends on what your ultimate goal is when you're writing. What is your intent with it? If you want to try it out just to write and publish for the first time, the beautiful thing about self-publishing and this journey is about you're not going to necessarily have the perfect book the first time. I know that when I wrote my first book, I had to go through a process of getting clarity and alignment. You know, how did I want to approach it? Being someone who's motivational and inspirational, I didn't realize that there was a teacher or a coach in me.
Mhm.
So when I first wrote, had I not written that first book, I don't know if I would be here today. What it did was help me to gain that clarity. And so again, we're talking about finding your book idea. And I just say you have to look at what is your ultimate intent, intent for it. The first time, the second time, the third time, I've written 13 books by myself solo since writing that first book. So, I think that once you give birth to that first idea or project, uh, it could open up the floodgates of what you did not realize was actually there. So I want to let our
Mhm.
expert bring her approach to the table, and that's Stephanie share about writing. You just got finished publishing one of your books. Share about coming up with the idea and anything that you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, my name is Stephanie. I am a author, and I also help others write and edit their books. For me, the impetus that caused me to write all three of my books was I felt there was a need for them in society. People, face it, people don't have a long attention span anymore. They don't like to read, but people still need to know things. So I have written three very short books. The longest one is 45 pages. These are books you can read in 30 minutes or less, on topics that people say they don't know anything about, or they think they know everything about. Aging independently, clean living, AI and writing. These are all very important topics in our world today. So I come up with the idea, I outline it, and I do research. My last book is actually the only one that has actual end notes in it, but every book I have, it's like, it's not just what I think the world should be doing. It's not about me at all. That's the thing that writers need to understand. It is not about you. It is about your message, and it's about the reader.
Yes. I think you're so right on point. If you're writing about yourself, it's still not about you. It's your testimony for someone else to see if they connect with your experience, can they relate to it, and then what lessons can they learn? How can they add to their life? So the thing that I'm getting, and I love this because it's a beautiful thing. It's called diversity, right? It's called being different. There's a reason why there's different flavors. There's a reason why there's a sugar cookie, a peanut butter cookie, a chocolate fudge cookie, a chocolate chip cookie, because there are so many. There are 300 and something million people in the US alone. So each one of our approaches can hit someone in a different way. I write to my experience because I know I experienced it. I can't write to someone else's experience because I don't know how authentic that is. I don't know how much truth there is to that. But I know that when I write about me and what I've experienced and my approach and God, then I know that it's true, right? Then I know that it's true. And then I do my research to see, is there other proven methodology that's out there that will validate that what I'm saying is actually and indeed true? And so that's the beautiful thing about, complexity. Complexity is not problematic. And in fact, complexity means that there's just a huge amount of differences. And that's all that is. And I'm looking at Dr. Reed because I know you sitting on the corner of your seat and you just want to share. Published many books and spoken to your expertise. So share, Dr. Reed.
Good morning, everybody. Teresa and Stephanie, thank you for your insight, because I can co-sign for what you both said. And I like to add to that dialogue that As a doctor of naturopathy, I've been a doctor of naturopathy for now 20 years, but the first maybe 14, 15 was in an actual brick and mortar office. And so when people would come to find me, they'd always say, oh my God, I was praying for somebody like you. I can't stand what's happening to me. What can you do? And it always came from a place of panic that people came to look for me. And so I started writing books about the experience of moving from panic to empowerment. And so I've published my first book in 2016. And then I wrote a book in 2018, and then I just kept writing. And so I write books in the From Panic to Empowerment series. The most recent book is for women to thrive over 40 in holistic wellness, spirit, mind, and body. Because women in that age bracket from 40 something on, they have a lot of fears. They panic about a lot of stuff. They're very anxious. They have a lot of emotional things that they don't realize is causing their physiological manifestation. So as a naturopath, my job is to get to the root cause of the problem. So I write books that talk about the emotions that we keep hidden. You know, fear goes to the kidneys, grief goes to the lungs. And one of the things that really sits home with me is loss. Women have a lot of physiological problems because they have not mitigated the energy of loss, whether it's loss of a loved one and specifically loss of a child. So I wrote From Panic to Empowerment, How to Embrace an Angel When You Expected a Baby. Women, even in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, are still grieving over the loss of a child, whether it was stillborn, voluntary termination, whatever the case may be. That is kind of like a silent suffering that women go through. And the other book I wrote originally was From Panic to Empowerment, How to Stop Pain and Disease from Taking Over Your Life by Connecting Spirit, Mind, and Body. So I want to teach women how to be autonomous with their health. You know, you go to the doctors, they tell you something, but what is your intuition telling you? What is your gut telling you? A lot of times women go to the doctor and they go, he told me to take this. I knew it wasn't going to be good for me, and I did it anyway. And I'm thinking, why did you do it anyway if you didn't know it was good for you? Because they were the authority. Well, no, you're the authority of your own body. So I want to give women back their sense of power in how they handle their wellness journey. And I say, let's redefine your wellness journey. And I do that by giving them insight about what wellness is. And so wellness is not that your ears, nose, and throat. Wellness is your spirit, mind, and body. And as a naturopath, my job is to get to the root cause of the problem for you emotionally and mentally, which means limiting beliefs and how they affect your emotions, because all of that affects your nervous system. It affects your heart. It affects your heart rate variability, your breathing capacity, even the age of your skin. You know, your age can tell on you. Your skin can tell on you if you're stressed out, right? Your crickety bones, it's the things that women, like Steph said, people think they know something, but you have to give them more so they can know it correctly. You know, there's a lot of parroting information. A lot of information that people parrot is wrong. But what happens when you get the right information and you employ that and you start seeing results? So I write books so women can start seeing results in their lives by just debunking the information that they thought they understood and giving them the truth, and then let them decide how it works. And that plays perfectly with my practice because my books are teaching tools for my courses, for my coaching program. And so it's all aligned. So when someone comes to me, not only do they get the Dr. Stephanie experience, but they get resources, books, workbooks, coloring books, journals, YouTube channels, everything. So it's a collective package. When you're an author, you're packaging your message in everything you do. And that's why I love to write. Package deal.
And we're passionate about write about, because what causes the response and to show up this way is the problem that we see in the world, or the situation that we want to see better, improved. And so that's the driving force behind that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I dropped everyone's YouTube channel, so make sure they're talking to you about what they do, how they do it, how you can connect with them and stay connected with them, and make sure that you subscribe to their YouTube channels, subscribe to their websites, their newsletters, and all that other good stuff. Excellent love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, because people need to be empowered. And when you're empowered and you show up with confidence, you're able to show up well. You don't have to just listen to what the doctor says, because you'll know yourself. As just like Teresa says, she says, listen, the beginning is self-awareness. You got to be self-aware, so that you'll know that when you're getting information, you're getting recommendations, do they really apply to you? So I'm going to move it. Keeping within the time. I just want to move over to Tiffany and say, hey, Tiffany, share with us, how did you get started? And you've been writing and helping other people write books.
Yes. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Marisa, for having me. So, leveraging your expertise and also your experiences is huge. And I started writing because I was in a coaching program, and coach said, you know what, we're going to collaboratively write a book. And I said, no. Why do I want to write a book? I don't know how to write. She says, you are in HR management. You do know how to write. You write reports and things, you know how to write. And it's time for you to write your story. Because I had already gone through a journey of being told I was going to die if I didn't make some changes in my health, and had to get it together. So it was, let's share that story. And that really just ignited a fire within me, because during the pandemic, I was laid off out of my career, and I started a group called the Girl Powerhouse Network. I just reached out to a few women just because I needed the support. And as I started listening and really hearing their stories, I'm like, you know what? These are not your stories. Someone else needs to hear this, because there's people out there that are dealing with the same stuff, similar stuff, and they're at their breaking point. They're about to take their life. Why don't we come together and share our stories? And we came out with the Becoming a Girl Powerhouse Volume 1. And I said I wasn't going to do it again. And now we're 3 in, all #1 bestsellers. And it's 45 women sharing their stories from trauma to triumph. How about that? That's power. And I love doing anthologies because you have, just that support group. I mean, being an author, it can be very hard. And sometimes you hit that wall and you're trying to figure it out. So when you have, a team behind you that's going through the journey, it's just really amazing. We recently started another anthology, and this time I decided to bring in the men as well, because they have perspective too. And this one is called Unsnapped. And Unsnapped is all about how to stay calm, cool, and collected in today's chaotic world. There are people out there that are coming apart at the seams. They're hurting each other. They're hurting themselves. Mm-hmm. So why not us come together and show them how we have been able to step into our own power of the calm, is what I'll say. So it's just so amazing. Again, just, those floodgates open up, and, when you tell that one story, we have hundreds of stories within us.
Yeah.
So you just got to start with that one, and just journal it. When you start to journal and I write it all. Okay, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And then when I go back and read it again, I get so many ideas. So it's just amazing. So if you have a book in that belly of yours, let's birth it. And if you need some help, we've got help here on the Own It Publishing platform. We've also just birthed our publishing, Girl Powerhouse Publishing, on our site as well. So we're here to help you just get it on out of there. So thank you so much again, Marisa, for having me. And everybody, stay encouraged and stay empowered.
Awesome.
We got a lot going on up here. We got Dr. Reed's International Retreat is March 12th through the 16th. And there's you register, go to her website, check out all the details and register for it. And then we're celebrating 5 years here in the Dominican Republic as well. These are 2 events in the Dominican Republic. We're celebrating 5 years. We're doing another Own It X 2025 because as authors, you as well. So we want to get that out of here, and we want to make sure that you have that opportunity. Dr. Reed is talking to you about building up and strengthening. Tiffany, you have that event coming up next month,
Yes.
Actually in California with you. So for me, it goes by what is your intent with your writing. When you're coming up with this idea, don't just think limitedly that you're just going to write of it. I have one of the authors that we just published her book, The Perfect Life, and she's like, Marisa, what's next? What's next? Yeah, because after you publish your book, after you get your idea, you write that book, there's something that's next. It doesn't end there. And so anyway, I just wanted to shift over. Tiffany, that's excellent, because we do serve men as well. Men have a story as well. And so we have a tendency that, because we see women so much in the forefront, that we the guys are like, you're leaving us. Some of these guys really want to get out and express themselves. So I thank you for extending that opportunity for the men. I remember being coached many years ago, and the coach was telling me, well, you have to, you either have to serve the women or you have to serve the men. And when I tried to do that shift over to just working with women, the men got upset. They were like, no, we need you speaking into our lives as well. We need this as well. And so I just said, you know what? I'm cross-generational. So I go to everybody. Whoever wants to be inspired, that's who I'm speaking to. So Pastor Durain, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's going on with you. What are your thoughts about writing? You're published multiple times. Yeah, come off of mute. We always do that.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here with all these amazing women. I appreciate the opportunity. From Teresa, I thought that was so powerful. You can't care for yourself if you don't have self-aware. You can't have self-care. I never thought about it in that manner, but it's so true. And Stephanie, it's not about you. It's about the reader. Yes, absolutely. And then Dr. Reed, I'm going to have to get this, moving from panic to empowerment. And then we came back with Tiffany, sharing stories from crisis to triumph. And what all those things have in common is the reason that I wrote my book, I Am Royalty. I am who God says. I am who God says. The word of God says I am. And it's simple. The word of God says, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes. So we have a mandate to share with others. The fact that, wealth comes from it, praise God. But our desire, our true heart's desire is, as authors, is to inform, it's to encourage, it's to uplift, it's to make sure that I fell in that pit. Girlfriend, I want to make sure that you don't. And I'm going to put up the signs that has an arrow so you could go around that pit that I went in. God made me an author at 62. Who in the world would think at 62? There's a paradigm shift in your careers. At 62, I wrote that first book. I'm now 64. I've been included in 3 additional books, and I'm an Amazon bestseller. To God be the glory. He really is doing a new thing. But my heart's desire is to empower all people. But there's a part of my heart that's to empower women, to let women know, as the book title that you guys have written, Stuck is Not Your Story. That's not the end of your chapter. There is another chapter that God wants to write, and it's to take you to your promised land, that land that is flowing with milk and honey. You don't have to stay where you are. I have another book that's going to be coming out, and it's entitled From Welfare to Faring Well. And it tells the story of triumph, how God brought me from one socioeconomic, I'm going to call it a dungeon, that they said we would stay there and that you can't get out. Well, that devil is a liar, because Jesus broke that mold wide open. I want to be an encouragement. God allowed me to start journaling. And I know this is shameful before God. As an educator, I was not keeping a journal. And I know that's a terrible thing to say. I wasn't one that liked to journal. But during COVID, I started journaling because God was showing me women who we're going through so much with the pandemic, and some of them are still stuck. Students are still stuck. And God had me write that book so that they could see the beauty of who they are through the eyes of God. And that is what brought many out. And I'm believing God is going to bring out many all over the world to see who they are through the eyes of God, and not from what people used to call you. Because it ain't what people call you that matters. It's what you answer to. And I answer to what the word of God says I am. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful and so appreciative to be a part of this phenomenal group of women. Girl power. Hallelujah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Keeping in with the time, Lulu, we got to hear from you.
Oh my goodness. This has been such a phenomenal morning. And I just want to just take my hat off to every author here. And I think I really identify with Pastor Rainey, because I never thought that I started at, I think I was 59, and I'm going to be 65 in March. And this writing journey and becoming a best-selling author through multiple anthologies. And, you know, things start sometimes one way and then they end up another. So I would just encourage everyone, from all of the stories that you have heard, understand that it is never too late for you to move in your journey. And one of the most freeing things that you can do is to write. Right now, you may not decide to publish anything, but to write. Because trust me, after 40 plus years in global high tech and engineering at the C-suite level, now I actually empower C-suite women to unlock their potential, to harmonize and to really harness their divine feminine leadership principles with innovative frameworks. Who would have ever thought that? So now all of that transition into coaching from corporate experience, what does that have to do with writing? Oh my God, it has everything to do with it, because your experience is going to help someone else. So I'm currently writing 2 transformative works. One is an anthology, Radical Ascension to the Next Dimension. What does that do? That empowers readers and writers that participate to rise beyond the limitations that we've been taught our entire life, and to embrace a higher potential that is just waiting there for you. And then the other work is my first single book, and that's called My Unshackled Mind. And that's deeply personal. And this is where you have the opportunity to write and liberate not just yourself, but others, and really help people go through exploration to free themselves from societal constraints, to live authentically. So both of those books reflect my passion and my inspiration for helping people to be set free, to find purpose, and most of all, know that there are limitless possibilities. So I would say authenticity, journaling, all of those things that you've heard everyone talk about. But one thing, never be afraid to talk about you. Don't be afraid to talk about you, as long as it's coming from an authentic place. Because while it may not be about you, but your story is going to mean something to somebody else. So don't be afraid to really be honest, get down and dirty. And I heard somebody say the good, the bad, the ugly, and sometimes the downright ugly, the oogly ugly that your grandmama used to talk about. So just let it all hang out in your writing. Thank you so much, Marisa.
This has been incredible, because when, just like I talked about the cookies, when you look at books, you look at different genres of books. So you have the fiction, you have the supernatural, you have the science fiction, and you even have the horror. Like you have spiritual, you have Christianity, Judaism. It's a wide spectrum. You have professional development, you have self development, you have your you have dietary. So listen, the point of the matter is get started. Listen, stop over examining yourself and get started. One thing about Own It and what we do is there's always a journal. When I do an anthology, a collective body, and even now I'm going back into all my books and adding a journal. Why? Because learning transferred only happens when you take ownership of what you have just read. You've just gained. You have to, that transfer comes in writing it in your own words. And that's what journaling is. It's taking it, it's digesting it, and now taking ownership of it in your own interpretation, right? When we hear music or we hear the lyrics, many times it's one set of lyrics, but to all of us, it's a different meaning based on our personality, our mindset, our experiences in life, and it's all good. The beautiful Lulu finished us out with, it's all good. Todo bien. That's what we say. Todo bien. That means all good. And so I just want to leave the Author's Corner is aimed at professionals and business owners who are interested in self-publishing. These monthly topics that we are bringing to you are just a guide through the process of turning your knowledge and expertise into a published book while helping you leverage your book for business growth and credibility. So we love you. We are so excited. We're so thankful that you joined us today. And get ready because we got a whole year. We are alive in 2025. And so get ready. And we're so excited to be with you. And I say, as Mark Wiggins says, get off the bench. We're out. Love you. Have a blessed rest of the week.